sometimes there's a bit of cross-reactivity that if you get exposed to an infection that is similar to another new infection, you get protected, which means that, for example, we may have something in our environment that exposes us to some particular, infection that is a bit similar to the flu. And that exposure can be, because you should know that it is not every time that you get infected by a disease by a pathogen that you get sick. It is very important.
Hello and welcome to another exciting episode on Back to Doc. I'm your host. My name is Ik Ogbonna, and doing this with me today, as always, is the beautiful, I like to call her the African goddess, Adele.
That intro, I'm taking it back home with me to
You
Kenya.
better.
I am.
You know, it took me 7 mountains and 7 seas to get that thing here.
You just have to add some spice on top of it. But I'm very excited about today's episode.
So what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about a topic that will make you and I and everyone watching and listening introspect. Immunity for the community.
And I have a feeling that today's episode is going to be super exciting. Why? Because we had an early chat with some of the guests, and there's very high energy coming from this side.
Hi.
Hello, Jaina.
Hello.
Jaina
Hi.
Diallo. The only time I heard Diallo back from Nigeria was when I heard the song Diallo, Diallo.
By Wycliffe.
Like Lejeune.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
and
yes.
this is Jaina Diallo.
Jaina Jallo, yes.
So Jaina, what do you do?
I'm an entrepreneur. I have a company and we do training, all centered around customer relations. So I'm a customer service expert. And we also provide leadership and soft skills training, but we do just B2B for now. And yeah, that's what I do.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Martin Yakum. Seems like a very chilled, laid-back guy, but blessed with so much wisdom. So, Mr. Martin, what do you do?
My name is Martin Yakum, so I am an epidemiologist. So I work in humanitarian settings. So we try to respond to humanitarian crises, including outbreak and other both man-made and natural disasters, affecting human health. So that's it.
So the word immunity, when we speak about immunity, what do you understand by the word immunity?
Yeah, in fact, when we talk about immunity, we are talking of some sort of a protection that you obtain when you have antibodies in the blood that they fight against specific infection. So that is what we mean, immunity.
Okay.
That's very interesting because I remember when I was in radio, I just used to use that word like... Anyway, if I get a flu 3 times in, let's say, 2 months, I'm like, I have low immunity. I've just decided it, you know. But I think I also want to understand why it's important. Like, you kind of know this is something very important, but again, like me, you're just kind of tossing it in sentences. So why is it important to not have a low immunity, as I was calling it?
Yeah, immunity is important to be immunized because immunity, as I said, is some sort of a protection against diseases. Well, we just have to know that this protection is specific. So you get protection for specific diseases. When you are immunized, it doesn't mean that you are immunized against other diseases in the world. It's specific, as I said, and there are different ways that you can get immunized. So, and that's for you. Then there's also the protection that you shared, because when you have some protection, you literally share some protection with your surrounding. For example, knowing that you cannot bring out infection into the community, because if you go out and get exposed to a disease, you cannot get infected and come and infect the other people around you. It's some sort of a protection of these people. So that's why it's important to get immunized.
So Jaina, how do you build your immunity?
Well, for me, immunity, again, like he said, there are ways, there are natural ways, and there are vaccines. I do get vaccinated. I am a pro-vaccine person. So that's how I mainly build my immunity, making sure that certain diseases, I make sure that I am vaccinated against. But obviously, there's also natural ways. I would give an example because I was born here and I left. And when I got back a few years ago, excuse me, I couldn't drink tap water. So because tap water was making me sick, and so I couldn't eat salad outside, right? Like simple things. Yeah. So it's not just tap water, but if you go somewhere the juice was made with tap water, then you have issues. And when I moved, my dad was giving me every week small doses of tap water to build my immunity. Wow. Yes, so I have actually practiced this. And now, if I go somewhere and I'm served tap water or juice that has tap water or salad, I'm comfortable and I eat it. And I don't have to run home with a, stomach issue. Yeah.
Oh my God, so using like a natural way.
Yeah.
That reminds me of what we always say with around babies. I have no children, so I have zero experience. Okay? But I hear this.
Are you trying to tell us that you are also a bad auntie?
Exactly, I am. Because when you see a child playing in the dirt or like on the floor and they're doing the things kids do, so they'll try and eat things from the floor, and there'll always be someone who's like, stop, no, don't do that. But I always hear, especially the older women in my family, saying, let them, that's how they build immunity. And I'm like, is that a thing? So is that like kind of like what your dad was saying, just let her have small doses?
Well, in this case it was controlled, but if it's a child just running around eating random stuff, but I mean, as long as I guess it's controlled.
Yeah. So what's the difference between natural versus vaccines?
Yes. Natural, maybe let me start with the fact that immunity can be maybe passive or active. Mm-hmm. And then passive is a situation where the person actually receives antibodies that fight against diseases. Maybe a child that receives antibodies through breast milk or so. This one are usually short-term immunity. You have it for a very short time and then later on you lose it. If you get exposed to the disease after a very long time, you'll be infected. Then about active is when your body actually produces these antibodies to fight the diseases. And in this case, we have these two types that we say natural, or it can be the acquired through vaccination. Natural is when generally you have natural immunity because your body starts producing antibodies against a disease because you get exposed to the disease, you get infected. For example, measles. When you get infected by measles, you will not have measles again in your life. If you survive from that, you will never have it again. But acquired immunity is when specifically health staff or they give you vaccines to stimulate your body to start producing antibodies against particular diseases. And this one is through what we call vaccination. And then you produce, and as I said, these are specific it's specific against one disease, and then if you want to get protected against many diseases, you must take many vaccines, of course. Yeah, so this is it about.
So some people would say that when you're vaccinated, it's the vaccine is introducing that disease into your body in a subtle way and allowing your body to be able to fight it when it comes, right? So I was in a conversation with someone just yesterday, and the person said to me that why do they need to introduce the disease into their body if they can just live a careful life, a hygienic life, and avoid having the disease at all?
Well, it is very important to know that your question takes me back to how do we get the diseases? Because it's very important to know. There are many routes of transmission, how you can get infected. Yes, of course, there are certain things that if you drink good water, you keep hygiene, you avoid some diseases. But there are other diseases that you get not necessarily because you are not living a good hygienic life or other practices. For example, there are some diseases like tuberculosis, airborne. So you don't need to get it because you are misbehaving. Just sitting beside you, if you are infected, I expose you to it. So already that. You cannot you cannot say you don't take vaccine because you want to you live a good life and so on. But if you can live, it's a good thing, because one time I remember that there's a paper that was talking about something in the USA back in some years back, when someone just introduced this hand washing in the hospital and reduced the rate of hospital transmission by 33% after some time. So you encourage them to do this, but they should also know that they cannot have every protection just by eating well. It's a good thing to eat well. Just by washing their hands, keeping good hygiene. Yes, these are good things, but it is not all.
I just want us to go back to the naturally acquired immunity versus the vaccine immunity. Is there ever a point where natural can surpass this other method?
Oh, no. At least that's not possible. Because the first thing, we need to understand what you mean by surpass. To mean the acquired immunity is better than vaccines acquired immunity.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, the truth to be told is, you can get infected by measles, for example. Immediately you'll be immunized against measles. But somebody can receive vaccines against measles and the person is not immunized. That is possible. But however, the risk of having the measles, the first thing to get immunized is first to be cured and not die. Because that, when you wait for the natural, the danger is that when you get infected, you can die.
Oh, yeah.
So before you develop the immunity, you are no more.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. That's actually the problem. So if you want to talk about surpassing, no. We will all, in public health, we always prefer the acquired immunity, because when we give you, you are healthy, and then there's very little risk of you presenting any problem. Even if you want to present problems, sometimes they can be minor problems, minor side effects that they can say, okay, this can be managed. Maybe headache, maybe pain at the injection site, and then they say, this can be managed. But
so what type of immunities do we have?
I didn't get the question.
What type of immunities do we have? I know there's something called herd immunity.
Okay.
Yeah, so what type of immunities do we have?
Okay, I actually talk about types of immunity already, which I talk about passive, active, acquired, natural. But now there's this concept of herd immunity, which we also call it group immunity. It's very important to know. Group immunity is a situation where the total population gets protected, even though not everybody is vaccinated. How does it happen? For most diseases, there's a proportion in the population that when they get immunized, let me use not vaccinated, immunized, the whole population gets protected. It is in such a way that, imagine that you are here surrounded by vaccinated people. Yeah. It means that if you have the disease, you cannot transmit to anybody. They just need to treat you and that will be all. But if you are surrounded by people not immunized, you transmit and get transmitted, is spread. So there's some sort of a protection, because each person not immunized is surrounded by immunized people. Then we call that health immunity. Maybe, for example, for each disease, the proportion that you need to get the health immunity, it varies. Maybe measles between 80 to 95% in the population. When you have this, there's this health immunity. Without that, there's exposure. So it doesn't mean that when there's health immunity, we cannot have that infection, but we cannot have an outbreak. They can have a single person get infected. They just need to treat the person. There's no fear that it gets to the next person around.
It doesn't mean that one person cannot get it. Those that are not immunized in that community are still at risk.
They get exposed, but they don't get the potential to transmit to anybody because the other people are protected.
I think the first time I met herd immunity was around the pandemic chaos, and just, again, consuming news pieces that were not from Africa. And there were many people who were against herd immunity. And I was like, what is that? First. And so I need to know what it is to know what my stand is on it. That was the first time I met it, but listening to you, it actually does make sense. So yesterday we were having a very interesting conversation, and there was a question that was asked that I could not answer. And even today I'm like, still having issues answering it.
What's
around health and being healthy. So what are the metrics to know that a group of people, or let's say Kenya, where I'm from, or Nairobi, are healthy? What are the metrics that we look at to decide this group of people are healthy? Is it nutrition? Is it...
I think that my community is healthy at a certain degree, because I know, like, you know, when I used to come to visit, to come back home, and I would be from the airport and then going home, and by the Corniche, and I see everyone working out, you know, so, and I'm like, oh, we are such a, you know, healthy bunch, you know, and then I go to other countries, which I won't name, and then I see that, you know, people are not working out, I don't see it, and they're eating, you know, and stuff like that. So I think, like, for me, when I'm judging a society or community on how healthy it is, for me, I don't necessarily go and think, are they vaccinated people? I think, what are they eating, what they are putting into their body, and how they are taking care of their, you know, heart. Are they working out? Are they stuff like that? That's how I kind of decide, are these people healthy? But then they can do all of those things and not be healthy.
That's
you
true.
know, and literally not even have any vaccine. But I wouldn't know, because, right, those are things that you can't see. It's not tangible.
Exactly.
As well.
I totally agree with you in that, like, the first time I came to Dakar, and I saw people working out, like public spaces and we don't have that in Kenya. Not to say that Kenyans are not healthy. My metrics, I think we're healthy.
I actually thought Kenya would be one of the people with the highest workout people, because they win all the marathon races and all that.
However, in the health standpoint, for us as professionals to say a population is healthy, there are some indicators. It's a complex thing, as you said, honestly, no? Because health is not only about the absence of disease or disability, it's also the mental. So there's a lot of complex things to look about, but generally, one of the major indicators we look in the community is first mortality. What's the death rate here? It tells us if they are healthy or not. Then after that, we go into the morbidity. Morbidity is about proportion that are ill. Not necessarily ill for one thing or the other, but many things. And then when I talk about morbidity, I also include mental health. You may don't have disease, you are alive, but you are not healthy because you have a lot of things. That's a big
topic nowadays as well.
So it's a lot of things that we have to look at when we are talking about health.
So there's no doubt that we have a lot of people, especially here in Africa, that do not believe in vaccination. It's so funny, you know, and they in turn influence other people not to believe in vaccination. So what works do you think that we should do, not just as health workers, but as human beings living in a particular society, to be of the higher influence?
Okay, well, as you said, it's not only in Africa. Vaccine hesitancy is a global issue. It is very good to recognize that. And then for us, first thing is we have to first ourselves believe in the vaccine. Do we believe in immunization? If we do, then we move to the next step. If we do believe in the immunization, we move to the next step. We need to communicate with our population. This is what is good. There are people who trust us, and they, not necessarily because we are a health worker, but they just grow up for one reason or the other. Maybe you are their leaders or anything. You are an influential or person or anything, and they trust you a lot. If you believe that this is good, which I strongly believe, you talk to them. And sometimes communication is not more about talking. Sometimes it's the action. One thing, for example, when I want to talk to my family about vaccination, the first thing I vaccinate myself. I always do that first in my family. When they talk about vaccine, I have my own assessment I can check, and then I take my vaccine. When I come back, I say, okay, it's very important for us to do this. And then,
lead by example. Lead by example.
So is it for every time you want to talk to the family, you get vaccinated? Because I'm wondering, how many vaccinations do you have in a year?
It's like,
no. It doesn't. Oh no. What do you mean? It doesn't mean any time you want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm here thinking, like, every time you want to talk to them, you're like, you see, today.
No. Just a minute. Okay. For example, as they were talking about COVID vaccine, because it was new, it caused a lot of controversy in the world. I had to go check some scientific backings behind the vaccines. And when I was convinced the vaccine can protect, I had to take. And now when I take this, I don't have to come every day and take, but at least I have the proof that I'm talking to you, but I have taken my vaccine.
If you notice something, Africans been exposed to cold fall sick faster than most Africans that live in rural areas are exposed to dirt and unhygienic environments. I think their body has built some form of resistance over particular diseases that you can just catch on the snap. Meanwhile, a person that has been in a very healthy environment, coming to that particular area would fall sick instantly.
Yeah, exactly. You should know that if you want to map the existence of pathogens in the world, they are not evenly distributed. There are some particular infections that you find more in Africa. There are some that you find more in Europe and so on. And then sometimes there's this a bit of cross-reactivity that if you get exposed to an infection that is similar to another new infection, you get protected, which means that, for example, we may have something in our environment that exposes us to some particular, infection that is a bit similar to the flu. And that exposure can be, because you should know that it is not every time that you get infected by a disease by a pathogen that you get sick. It is very important to know that. That is why even in the human body, we have a lot of infection that we call, that they are in the body and they don't cause sick. They don't cause you to be sick. But this can play a very good role in your life. It can stimulate your immune system against certain things. It's possible.
I was going to ask a question earlier and it skipped my mind. So how do you as a patient know when you are wrongly vaccinated? So now you let's say, for instance, you're here and you feel that you've had a COVID vaccination. Meanwhile, the person that administered it to you wrongly. But now you're moving around thinking that you are vaccinated. Are there cases like that? And how do you know when you are wrongly vaccinated?
Okay, it's a very difficult question.
I love the honesty.
You to be nice to him.
No, you said you're going to make it hard for me.
Yeah, because honestly, to you to know that you are wrongly vaccinated is difficult. But I must say that a lot of things can happen because you are bringing up something that is very important. Vaccines, they have a way to store them in the refrigerator. If you store them wrongly, they become impotent. And then you inject the person, it's a waste of time. That's one example. That's one thing already. Secondly, the route of administration is well defined because in the body, they can inject into the muzzle, they inject into the blood, or they inject maybe under the skin, or they give oral. When you miss this route, it's questionable. You may not gain the immunity that is required.
So a vaccine can be administered into the vein, the muscle, or under the skin?
Each vaccine, there's definition. They say this one give here. Cholera vaccine give oral. Measles vaccine into the muzzle. So this is it.
Okay.
And then if they miss this route of administration, then you may not get the immunization, the immunity that you need. So if the generally thing is that if the vaccine is not potent, that is one problem. Or if they give to a wrong route of administration, those are the two possibilities that the health staff can make as an error. And then you as a person, you may not notice, except this resort to side effect. Because if it resolves to side effect, one of the things that when you get to a hospital, they want to check, what did you receive? Where did they inject it? And then the health staff can tell you, actually, there was an error, for example. If the error can be known by them, you can be told. But you yourself to just know, except that for some things you already know. For example, if you are going to take oral polio vaccine, you know it's in the mouth. If somebody starts telling you that, no, I want to inject you, you can say, but wait, I have not heard about that before.
Something is off,
So that you can know.
So what if a vaccine that's supposed to be injected in the muscle is injected into the vein? Would there be any negative reaction?
There might be. It's not obligatory that there will be, but there might be. Because generally we inject something in the muscle because we want it to go to the blood slowly.
Okay.
Yes, we don't want it to come yeah, and then there might be some reaction. This one, we cannot say exactly what will happen, but sometimes there can be this reaction that can be very severe, honestly. It can be very severe, and then you may end up being hospitalized, or it may even put your life at risk.
Yeah.
Yes, that is why they have strategy to check where they are injecting, and then if you are injecting in the muzzle, there's something when you inject, you have to check, and then you know.
This is a very interesting topic, and I'm sure we can go on and on and on. But it's gotten to that point of the show where I would like to love you all and say goodbye at the same time. It's been an amazing show with you guys, a very amazing show, and I hope we can do this again sometime. Adele.
Yes, I've learned a lot. And, you know, one of the things is just to be able to take my health into my own hands, not only for me, so no longer selfish, but also for the people around me.
Adele, I still think there's a little bit of selfish in you somewhere.
No, it's gone
This is
now.
the last one now. When she goes back up, she'll be like, yes, back to my selfish self.
It's gone now, but I hope it's the same for you who is watching and listening to this fantastic episode of Back to Doc, and that you have taken away something that helps you make better informed decisions about your own health. So make sure you catch all the Back to Doc episodes, because there's something for you to walk away with in each and every one of them.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, yeah, we never ever get thanked, so that's nice.
But do you guys have any final words?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, communication, again, is important. The right communication is important. And remembering also that there are people that don't have access to the communication, and we should look at ways to get that information to those people. And do your own research.
Yes.
Do your own research.
So, Dr. Martins, I would ask you, do you have any catchphrase, something that you want people to hold on to whenever down the streets? Yes, this is Dr. Martins.
Yeah, I have something to tell them, and then also to tell the on the other side, the public health officials watching too. Because for the public health official, what I want to first of all say is that it is very important to also consider the priority of the population. When you have not had food to eat and somebody is proposing vaccine to you, your priority is not that vaccine.
Mm.
I remember one time when I worked in Syria, there was this issue. Then I was talking about COVID, and when I tried to talk to some staff, one person boldly told me, "Martin, we have more serious problem than what you're talking about." Yes, so to tell you, because of this, the behavior of the community can always, you should understand that sometimes their priority is not what you're talking about.
True.
So it's good to know what they need first. Then for the population, what I can say is that vaccine, especially for those that the process of production of vaccine, there's a lot of control. When vaccine is evaluated and approved, it is safe for human health. And then vaccination alone is not enough. You need to make sure that you eat good food, balanced diet. You need to make sure that you keep some preventive activities around you. Maybe you drink good water, you keep hygiene around you, and then and sanitation. So it's very important to know this. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, it's been an exciting show from Ik Ogbonna. Yeah. Next time.